Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Thinking Watermill Society. Once again, my name is Maria Angela, and I'm a researcher based in Nairobi, Kenya. Today with us, we have Ria Anna. Ria, do you mind introducing yourself, your brand, and your experience in fashion?
Yeah, so hi, Maria Angela. It's nice to meet you on Zoom. So my name is Ria, and I'm the founder and creative director of Lila. Lila is a sustainable and ethical fashion brand where we focus on comfortable and versatile clothing for mindful individuals. We've been operating out of my home, Kenya, for the last 3 coming up to 4 years now. And the idea is for us to create clothing that benefits the wearers as much as it does the makers.
Mm-hmm. Wow, 3 to 4 years is a really long time. What inspired you to begin your fashion brand?
This story is one that goes quite far back. When I was a kid growing up in Kenya, we didn't really have shopping. We had mitumba, and that was pretty much it. That was the only access that we had. So whenever I would go to mitumba, or if I was fortunate enough to be able to travel when I was younger, so I'd go and shop, and we would shop for like the whole year, and those would be our clothes for the whole year or 2 years. And I would just get bored in a few months. So I would take all my pocket money or any money that I was earning, doing work experience and internships at the EPZ or with seamstresses in Nairobi. I would take all of that money and take it to a tailor and take all of my clothes that I was bored of, and I said, look, if you just cut this piece, then that can become this part, and this can be that, and then it will, from a skirt, it will become a top. And he'd be like, Ria, why can't you just buy fabric? And I'm like, no, but this is fabric. So I guess I was engaging in upcycling before it was really coined as a term. And it got me thinking about, what happens then to all of the material that doesn't get bought in the shops, or all of these mitumba clothes that get thrown away because no one buys them at the end of the day. And so I actually focused on the sustainable and ethical side of what I do for my university degree. And I tailored my thesis to ethical fashion and sustainable fashion. So I'd been working with various groups. It was, design houses and manufacturers, factories, custom tailors. And I went back to all of them and I asked them, is it possible, in your opinion, to be good to the environment and pay people fairly and, have a great working environment, and positively benefit your community around you while still turning a profit in fashion? And each and every one of them said no in some way or shape or form. So I don't know, I think my research really pushed me to get motivated to start it, because I believed it could happen. And so this is how I started Lila.
Oh wow, that's very interesting story. And I think you're one of the few fashion designers who've actually taken the time to study about sustainability and the ethical aspect of fashion. So I really admire that. So looking at your website, I realized you have the Kupona collection, which means to heal in Kiswahili. So it means that you're really focused on the sustainable aspect of your clothing. And with this respect, I'd like to ask, what does sustainable fashion mean to you and your brand? Because I can see it's the whole center. It's centered all around protecting the environment and the people. So what does it mean to you?
Sustainability is a very broad term. And I feel like, to be a sustainable brand, or to at least call yourself, doesn't mean that you're perfect, but it means that you're addressing issues throughout your supply chain. So that goes right from where the cotton is grown, or whatever material you're working with, where it comes from, who is growing it, who is spinning it, who is making it, where it's being dyed, how it's being dyed, how it's being made in a fashion house like Lila. And then how does that sustainability pass on to a customer? Now, as the wearer, sustainability doesn't just stop once we've made something and checked all the boxes to say, yes, this is an eco-friendly fabric. Everyone's been paid fairly for it. It's, chemical-free dyes, or, dyes that are positive for the environment, like agricultural waste, as we do. Sustainability for a customer means how long can you wear that garment, and what do you do with it when you're bored with it. So all of the designs in the Kupona collection and in our previous collections are highly adjustable and very versatile. So there's different options for you to wear that one piece in 3 or 4 different ways. And if you gain 15 pounds or lose 15 pounds or get pregnant or whatever it is, you can still wear your Lila Bear piece. So I feel like if sustainability has to continue through the whole supply chain, including the wearer, and we address that through giving the customers multiple size options and making pieces that are designed to last through seasons and through just wear and tear, general making sure that basically, even if you do want to pass it on, it's something that you could do because it would still be in pristine condition.
Oh, I think that's really great. Focusing also on the inclusivity aspect is one thing that I also think is very important, because I see many brands that only focus on one particular size, one particular gender, and I think that's what we also need to focus on personally as Kenyans as well. So speaking of your plant dyes, your fabrics, I see you did a collaboration with Refugee, and I wanted to know, how did that go? How did that come about? And how has this also, promoted the sustainability aspect of your brand? Also with regards to your fabrics, what fabrics do you use?
No, the Refugee artisan group, I was made aware of them, and I learned about them a couple of years ago, and ever since I wanted to work with them. I've been personally experimenting with vegetable dyes and plant dyes for about 3 years now, and we had never really made it commercial because all of the information I was finding was just for little napkins or just the one t-shirt. So I was working on this craft of thinking about how we can scale this up. And the first thing that came to mind was using things that are indigenous and focusing on those indigenous and abundant resources that we have, or the agricultural byproducts, so the waste, things that we throw away. So I approached Refugee because I thought it was fantastic, the program that they're running to support refugee women from all over Africa and give them a vocational skill that's tie-dyeing and to make small, scarves or little trinkets that are sold to help support the women. When I went in, I spoke to the management team, Emily and Stephen. They were so welcoming, and I said to them, do the women know the effects of using chemical dyes on themselves or on the environment? And so that's how it kind of came about. So we went in to teach the workshop of what it means to use a chemical dye, why you sometimes see a red river and then the next year it turns green, because it's all of these chemicals going into those water bodies, what it does to you as a human being, how using chemical dyes are hazardous to human health. As a side note, I am deathly allergic to any coloring of any kind. Like I can't dye my hair or drink a soda. So I absolutely had a personal interest in making this more widespread as a craft. And so we actually we taught the workshop, and then in conjunction with teaching all of the information about the effects of why chemical dyes are bad, we're presenting an alternative through practical learning. And so we taught them the skills of how to dye with tea and coffee, obviously the most abundant natural resources we have in Kenya, our biggest exports. And so it was a really special project, because from what I understand and what I believe is actually Africa's first scaled natural dyeing project. And so it was really exciting to be a part of that and to have spearheaded that. So then from there, we started developing things beyond. So as much as we're doing vegetable dyes, we've continued that in the Kupona collection. We're also looking at things that are very contextual and relevant to Kenya. One of them being secondhand market. So secondhand market, as you definitely know, I'm sure, is donation based from all the countries, you know, the Western countries, such as the UK and the US and Germany, and they donate clothing to Africa. And it basically arrives here, and the secondhand market, they end up selling for profit. So as much as I support parts of the secondhand market, for example, that, you know, they service a part of the demographic that we can't afford to, as local designers, supply that price point, mainly because there's no cost involved with secondhand clothing, it's donations. So, but then, you know, for a rural farmer in Turkana, he's not going to spend, you know, 20 shillings or more than 20 shillings or 50 shillings on an item of clothing. So that's helpful. However, you know, there's a lot of fabrics and a lot of garments that end up in our landfill that are actually supposed to be in Germany's landfill or the UK's landfill, because we can't recycle them. So taking that, we're actually working on a project which is going to be released towards the end of the year, which is a collaboration with Africa Collect Textiles. So Africa Collect Textiles, they collect all of these, now the dead stock of the mitumba. So what hasn't sold in the mitumba, and it is destined for landfill, and it's going to choke our landfill. So they collect all of that, specifically denim. So we've upcycled 50 pairs of jeans to create, I've designed my own patchwork textile. So we've ripped up all these jeans and pieced the nice bits together and reused as much of those jeans as we possibly can to minimize the waste that is going into landfill, but also to create something completely different and original and new. So that's what's up and coming. So these are the kinds of projects that I like to take on. Those are just a couple of examples of how we work with different textiles.
Wow, I feel like I'm so, you know, happy about this, especially hearing that, you know, your plant dyeing project is one of the largest. So I think that's really amazing. Congratulations to you. And, you know, I think this is a big win also for, you know, the Kenyan society and the Kenyan environment, because what you're doing is basically the start of what other people will continue to do. So I'd like to first begin by asking about I mean, you spoke about the dyes, you know, polluting the rivers. And I'd like to ask, when people wash your products, what exactly is the outcome? Is there less fibers reduced in the washing process, or is it a less harmful material because it's made from, you know, organic products? Yeah, maybe you can explain that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big debate right now. I think it started last year about, you know, microplastics going into our washing machines or our buckets, and then going into the land and affecting the environment. So as a policy, we only work with natural fibers, completely natural fibers. So every single fabric and textile that we work with is compostable. So the difference between being biodegradable and compostable is, when you label something biodegradable, it actually means that it could take hundreds, if not thousands of years, or a lot of chemicals to decompose. When it's compostable, it's completely natural, and therefore with time will weather away. So even if you do throw something away that is Lila Bear, which I really hope no one would, and please bring your clothes back to us if you're tired of them, and, you know, we'll be able to create a circular kind of exchange for you. But if in that event it were to happen, the fibers themselves would naturally decompose and go back into nature. Obviously it does take some time because the fibers are incredibly durable, but it doesn't require any chemicals to do so, and it takes a lot shorter time than it would if it was a biodegradable. So these are the things we have to watch out for as customers. You know, when you think of something, oh, it's biodegradable, that's great, but what does that really mean? And so we try and take that pressure away from customers and answer the questions with our own actions in the first place. So at Lila, we choose the fabrics on the basis that they can decompose naturally, to make sure that there's we're not passing that responsibility on to anybody else.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's also very insightful as well. Tying that together with what you talked about on the secondhand clothing market, recently there was a ban on secondhand clothing, and then it was lifted again by the Kenyan government. So I'd like to ask, how does that affect you as a locally based fashion designer? You produce your products from scratch, and yet secondhand clothing is just flooding the market, and also filling our landfills. So I'd like to ask, how does this affect you, and is there any sort of support that you've gained from the government in this respect?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm about to say might be highly controversial with my fellow designers, but I have an opinion about the secondhand market, and that is, it's not all bad. Actually, as I said before, there is part of the market that is being serviced that local designers can't provide for, genuinely cannot provide for, and that speaks to more income and GDP per capita and those kinds of demographics that fall into, they can't spend thousands of shillings on one piece. However, the issue that I do have with the secondhand market is that it's not regulated. Now, if it was regulated from a governmental top level perspective, I would fight for only importing those secondhand clothes that are compostable, that are natural fibers. Because at the end of the day, those fibers are not going to negatively impact our environment as much as your nylons, your polyesters. The other thing is that if it's a natural fiber, it's much easier for designers like me to repurpose that fabric and create something new. And this is another thing, looking at the secondhand market, not as just finished garments, but potentially raw materials as well. If though, you see things like swimwear or lingerie or anything that's plastic based, so your polyester fibers and things, those can't be repurposed. When they reach us here in Kenya, shipping and being in the container for however long it's been has already compromised the garment, and so you can't sell it. Then it ends up in landfill. Now that plastic is now where the real danger lies. So I think that the secondhand market can be a wonderful thing. It's just that we need to learn about textiles and about what textiles do in order for us to be able to protect our own environment without damaging and compromising our environment while servicing groups that local fashion designers may not be able to right now. I also feel like the quality of the garments are always much better when they're in strong, durable, natural fibers, because the plastic-based ones, initially when they first came into the market, everyone thought, oh, these will last forever because it's plastic, but actually they're wrong. And I think we all know this story. You buy something that's really, really cheap and it's plastic-based fibers, and after 3 washes, you can't wear it again, and then you want to throw it away. So I think that secondhand market we have to really reevaluate how we open up our borders just to anything and everything. I mean, I think, as you asked about the government, I think the government is really interested in rehabilitating the textiles and apparel sector, and focusing on the secondhand market is not something that I've engaged with the government just yet, but I would really like to. So if anyone from the Kenyan government is listening, call us.
We'll leave your number down below.
Shameless plug.
No, there's no problem with it. So actually, we're going to include some of your pictures, your websites. I think that's really cool as well. So people can also, get in touch with you, purchase your products, because, we're all about sustainability here at the Thinking Watermill Society. So one last thing to tie the whole interview up is on the social aspect of your brand. Now, you've collaborated with refugee, you've taught them about, you know, the dyeing process, the dangers of chemical dye and the advantages of plant dye. So in this aspect, does your brand respect human rights and seeing that women are actually the majority of the labor force in the fashion industry? How do you empower them in your fashion brand? Profit sharing, you know, fair wages, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So the reason that I call Lila Bear sustainable and ethical fashion brand is, you know, the ethical pertains to how we treat our people. So from the research that I've been a part of in the last few years, I've discovered that Lila Bear actually pays more than double the top or the second highest earners of in the tailoring sector in Kenya. We also provide benefits like transport allowances, free meals, and snacks every day. A big part of what we're working on now, we've actually recently just moved into our cottage studio space. So the space in which people work, I believe is very, very important for people's well-being, for motivation, general health. So rather than moving into a factory or a warehouse with little ventilation and little lighting, we've moved into a more, what would be a residential space. It's a really pretty cottage, and you're about to see pictures on social media because we're putting the space together. It's where I'm sitting right now. But we have a lovely garden, and we also have an open door policy. So once we open our doors, you'll be able to come and make that judgment for yourself, because as much as we can label it ethical, I think it's really important for us to be open and honest and transparent, and also for people to make that decision for themselves. If they feel like this is a lovely environment to be in, then in their minds that's validating that what we're telling them is actually true.
I think I appreciate that, because we usually rely on what people tell us. Okay, like, I'm a sustainable fashion brand, like, okay, yeah, I believe you, but we don't see any of that. We can't see your fibers, you can see your like your workers, how they treated. So I really actually do respect that, and I feel like your brand has a really bright future in this country. So I must say, like, I'm really proud to be a Kenyan right now. So one last
That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So one last thing is, what are your final thoughts on the future of sustainable fashion in Kenya?
It actually ties into what you just said. Is I think that people really need to be conscious of the term greenwashing. I by no means advocate for trolling, but I have trolled several fashion brands here that claim to be ethical. And I'm not trolling, but I'm actually questioning them. They have it in their bio and they say that they're ethical and sustainable. And I'll, send a DM to them and say, I'm just curious to know how you are ethical and sustainable, because I can see on the fabrics that those are chemical dyes, and I can see that there's certain things that there's a missing piece of the puzzle, so I want to question and I want to know. And this is the right of everybody. I strongly encourage everybody in Kenya who knows of a brand that claims to be sustainable to please go and ask those questions, because we're supposed to be open books. A lot of these brands that I asked either don't reply or change their bio in 24 to 48 hours. And I think we have to be very, very considerate of people who, and brands who are dedicating a lot of time and energy, like Lila Bear, where we work with people with integrity, and we make sure that people are paid fairly. And it's a lot more legwork to do. People ask why sustainable is more expensive. It's because everything is better quality. Everyone is paid really well. No one has been squeezed. Everyone's earning a decent living wage. And on top of that, it's designed to last. Now, putting that label and sprinkling it on just to get the credit when you haven't done that legwork is incredibly damaging to the industry itself. And we're so small as Kenyan fashion, the industry itself as a whole is so tiny. So then to now hone in on the Kenyan sustainable brands, I can think of a lot more jewelry brands, like our brass brands are really really great here in terms of upcycling and being sustainable. But in terms of clothing, there's very, very few of us. So just a word to the wise to make sure that you're always questioning these brands and making sure that everybody stays credible, ask the questions when necessary, and demand that people who are saying that they're sustainable and ethical, demand that they prove that to you in some way or show you why they think that is.
Yeah.
But, you know, as a whole, I do think there's a lot of promise. There's incredible weavers, there's incredible, you know, artisans here, cottage industries that are doing such fantastic work. And, you know, I think that it's something that with the right intention and with the right placement and with the government support, we can actually grow into a very fruitful and positive industry.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that was very insightful. I really found this talk to be, very, I don't know, enlightening for me. And especially, as a Kenyan, compared to, interviewing fashion designers in other countries, I feel like it really hits home to see someone who
Yeah.
actually has this experience in our country talking about the real issues, the environment, the people, everything. So I really appreciate it. Once again, everyone, this is Ria Anna. And thank you so much. And yeah,
Thank you, Maria Angela. I had a great time. So nice to chat to you.
okay. Bye bye.